There are hundreds of amazing yearly reset routines, but which one is the most effective in helping you become the best version of yourself? In this video, I'm going to be finding the best 2022 reset routine out of Annie Long's, UnJaded Jade's, Fernanda Ramirez's, and Ruby Granger's. I'm going to be rating each of these routines based off of 4 factors. Firstly, how useful it was. Secondly, how refreshed I felt afterwards. Thirdly, how original it was. And fourthly, how much fun I had doing it. Also, quick disclaimer, all of these girls are absolutely amazing, and this video is just for fun. So with that being said, let's get into the video. The first reset routine that I'm going to be trying is Annie Long's, and her video is called How to Actually Achieve Your Goals in 2022. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to try is the 12-week year.
The most helpful advice that I was given recently was to look at the new year as periods instead of an annual thing. And I think the new year does have this energy to it and it pushes people to set new goals, but it can get unhealthy because people tend to just forget about their New Year's goals. So a way around this is the 12-week year, thinking about your year in quarters.
I think it's a really good idea, and I'm going to duplicate her Notion template and plan the first 3 months of 2022.
I don't slack, I stay on it. If the blame is yours, you gon' be the one to pay for it. Woke up through some bands, I ain't even had to slay for it. Don't bet against the underdog, I was made for it.
The other thing that she mentioned that I really liked was the planning to action ratio. I always fall into this trap, and it was a really good reminder, so thank you, Annie. Alright, so the next thing is the habit tracker. I actually did try this last year and it didn't work for me at all, so I'm not going to be doing that. But I do like the fact that she linked the databases so that every time she came up with a new task, the goal was linked as well. Finally, she also talked about having a daily highlight.
So this daily highlight is like what I really want to get done today. If I can only achieve one thing, what is it going to be? It's going to give you so much more clarity.
And I actually started doing this a few months ago and it has worked so well for me. Alright, so for how useful it was, I gave Annie a 10 out of 10 because I don't know how she packed so much information into one video, but I do actually think that the 12-week year will really help me attain my goals in 2022, so I do really like that. Secondly, for how refreshed I felt afterwards, I gave her a 9 out of 10. And then thirdly, for how original it was, I gave her a 9 out of 10 because I personally haven't heard anybody talk about the 12-week planning system on YouTube. But for the daily highlight, Ali Abdal has talked about that previously and I've watched that video, so she got a mark deducted off for that, but her originality was way up there. And finally, for how fun it was, I gave her an 8 out of 10. Good evening, everybody. It is currently 8:36 p.m. and now we're going to be trying Fernanda Ramirez's 2022 reset routine. So she actually begins by writing out her 2022 goals in a notebook, but since I already did that in Annie's video, I'm not going to be doing it again. So moving on to the second thing, which is to make a vision board. I actually haven't made one of these in ages, so I'm really excited to do it. Okay, so I just got done with my vision board and I think it turned out really well. But the next thing we have to do is write out some journal prompts. I've never actually done this before. I usually just tend to write out all of my thoughts in my journal, but I do think that it'll be worth a try. Okay, so the next thing that Fernanda does is she basically does a digital reset. So firstly, I'm going to be clearing out my camera roll and then making a 2022 Spotify playlist. I'm so happy that she included this because my camera roll is really messed up. Okay, I just got done with cleaning out my camera roll and I deleted so many photos, it's actually insane. But the final thing she does is deep clean her room. But at the moment, surprisingly, my room is really tidy because I did do a really long deep clean the day before New Year's, so yeah. Alright, now I'm going to rate Fernanda's reset routine. So firstly, for how useful it was, I gave it a 7 out of 10 because making a vision board wasn't really necessary and neither were the journal prompts, but I did think it was quite refreshing, so I gave her an 8 out of 10 for that. And then thirdly, for how original it was, I gave her a 5 out of 10 because I have heard all of these ideas before and I think she actually did most of the stuff in her previous video when she prepared for 2021. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but it wasn't something that I hadn't heard before. Finally, for how fun it was, I gave it a 9 out of 10 because who doesn't love scrolling through Pinterest and designing new backgrounds? So yeah. Okay, so Jade started off with reflecting on 2021. So I'm going to quickly write down what I achieved, what I didn't do so well, and what I should continue working on. Alright, so let's start off with what I achieved in 2021. So first off on my list, I did my GCSEs. Secondly, I learned new revision strategies. And I'm really happy about this because I used to write a bunch of notes and then try and copy them out into another notebook to memorize them. But now I started using Anki and methods of active recall, which has been a game changer for me. Thirdly, I explored areas of interest, so I further developed my interest in medicine. And fourthly, I became a more mindful person and I started implementing yoga into my morning routine. Now on to things that I could improve. So at the beginning of the year, I actually wrote down that I wanted to pick up piano again, and my goal was to practice piano for 30 to 45 minutes twice a week, and that just never ended up materializing. I think I did it for about 3 weeks in January and gave up really quickly because I just gave myself excuses like, you don't have time, you need to exercise more than you need to play piano. And then I started prioritizing my GCSEs and I was like, oh, but mocks are coming up, and then oh, my actual GCSEs are here, and then I just completely gave up on it and forgot about it. So that didn't go so well. And then the next thing was reading. Looking back, the goal I set was just completely unrealistic. The last one is what I should continue doing. So I actually had a pretty good fitness routine in 2021. I went to the gym quite a lot and I did a lot of at-home workouts, primarily Pamela Reif and MadFit. And then also in the latter half of 2021, I started horse riding again, and I have never been more happy in my entire life. Basically, the stables I used to go to closed down and became a quarantine center, and they still haven't reopened up, so I transferred riding stables. And let me tell you, I absolutely love riding, and I'm so happy that I got back into it. Now on to the fun part, planning for 2022. Alright, so for how useful Jade's reset routine was, I gave her a 9 out of 10 because she did provide all of the Notion templates and all of the reflection questions, and she also shared some of her new goals as well as reflected on what she did in 2021, which was super helpful, and the fact that she wasn't afraid to share what she didn't actually implement was really encouraging. Secondly, for how refreshed I felt, I put a 10 out of 10 because it really got me excited for the new year. Thirdly, how original it was, I gave her a 7 out of 10 because I have seen those questions before and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Also, the routine was quite generic because basically she just reflected on what she did in 2021 and set new goals for 2022. But she did get a few extra points because she did make her own Notion template. Finally, for how fun it was, I gave her an 8 out of 10 because I do quite enjoy writing, but it was a little bit taxing to do, although it was very necessary. Okay, so the first thing that Ruby did was she finished up any assignment she had and anything she needed to finish before the start of the next semester. And I actually do have to do my biology Anki flashcards, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. The next thing is a digital declutter, so I'm going to clean out any old files in my downloads folder on my Mac and then also clear out the screenshots on my phone. The last thing is to set new goals and habits, but since I already did that in both Annie and Jade's videos, I'm not going to do that in Ruby's. Now for the rating. So for how useful it was, I gave Ruby an 8 out of 10. My screenshots album did badly need a clean out, and so did the downloads folder on my Mac. Secondly, for how refreshed I felt afterwards, I also gave her an 8 because it was just so much nicer to have a clean downloads folder and also an even cleaner camera roll. Thirdly, for how original it was, I gave her a 6 out of 10. One more point than Fernanda because she did specifically say to clean out your screenshots folder on your phone and go through them to see if you have any class notes that you've been meaning to type up and then write it down on your laptop or write it in a book somewhere. So that was really helpful, and I've never actually heard anybody say that on YouTube yet. And then fourthly, for how fun it was, I also gave her a 6 out of 10 because it didn't really require me to think that much. It was just something that I did have to get done. Overall, I really enjoyed making this video and I learned a lot from every single one of these girls, but after averaging out all the scores, the best reset routine was, drumroll please, Annie Long. My favorite thing about Annie's reset routine was the 12-week year, because it gives yourself adequate time to firstly achieve the goal and secondly make it a habit, and that is really, really important. My favorite thing about Jade's was the 4 questions she asked. Firstly, this year I will open myself up to. Secondly, this year I will learn more about. Thirdly, I will say yes to, and fourthly, I will say no to. I thought that was really useful, and it really made me think deeply about what I wanted to attract and what I wanted to get rid of. And finally, my favorite thing about Fernanda's and Ruby's was the fact that they did a digital declutter. I had so many random photos in my camera roll, and particularly when Ruby said she takes screenshots of things and she needed to add things into her notes and stuff like that. I do it all the time at school, so thank you guys for that. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below because it helps my channel grow. And also comment which one your favorite reset routine was, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!